What happens when you mix the best housing demographics ever with the lowest interest rates ever on record, along with the lowest available inventory ever on record? Well, you get a super unhealthy, crazy housing market, one with record appreciation like we saw in 2021. And unfortunately, things don't seem to be getting much better. In fact, Zillow just came out and revised their 2022 housing forecast from their 11% appreciation that they predicted back in December. That's just a month and a half ago. They've revised that number to 16%. They're expecting home values to increase around 16% in 2022. Now, why did they revise it in just such a short period of time? Well, that's what we're going to dive into in today's video. We're going to talk about what's actually happening out there in the housing market, what I'm seeing as a real estate agent with boots on the ground, what we're struggling with, in writing offers with buyers, and some things you can do as a buyer if you're wanting to buy a house, if you're wanting to get into the market. We're going to talk about all of that. Now, as many of you know, as you're going through this is a tough housing market. As a real estate agent for almost 20 years, this is the toughest housing market I've ever seen on record for buyers because it's difficult. There's a lot of competition. There's not a lot of inventory to choose from. You're having to make very, very quick decisions. A lot of times you're having to put your earnest money at risk, by waiving contingencies and doing crazy things in order for your offer to even be considered. In fact, the latest home purchase sentiment index just came out, and buyers are becoming more and more pessimistic about buying. But at the same time, sellers are also becoming more and more pessimistic about selling. So how can you have buyers being pessimistic about the process as well as sellers being pessimistic about the process as well? Isn't it a seller's market? Yes, it is. But there are also some nuances, some caveats to being a seller in this market, and we're also going to talk about those in today's video as well. My name is Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California. My goal with this video is to keep you up to date on everything that's going on in the current housing market. So do me a favor, if you find any value at all, hit that thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything real estate related. Now, we started the day's video off by talking about Zillow saying that home prices are likely to increase somewhere around 16%. And that's up about 6%, 5% or so from just a month and a half ago when they initially put their article out for the 2022 home price forecast, right? So they've already risen it in just that short period of time. But why? Well, it's because of a lack of inventory. And a lot of people believed that as we transitioned into the new year, inventory was going to start to pick up. But what we've seen is that supply that comes to the market is being met with demand. So supply and demand are essentially moving at the same rate, which means that supply isn't really getting an opportunity to increase. And that is the biggest problem with today's housing market, is the lack of available inventory. At the same time, you have interest rates increasing. Interest rates have gone from somewhere in the low 3% range, even high 2% range towards the end of last year, to upwards of 4% today. Interest rates are being quoted near 4% today on a 30-year fixed. So you have buyers out there stressing, thinking that interest rates are going to continue to rise. They're trying to purchase property that's not available out there, and therefore it causes commotion, it causes anxiety, it causes buyers to do things that they wouldn't normally do, which is creating this competitive housing market where prices are continuing to go up and up and up. If you watch any of my other videos, you've heard me say, in this year alone, just in the first couple of weeks of the year, every offer that I've either made and or property that I've sold that's gone into escrow where I'm representing the seller has gone somewhere between 5 and 8% above the list price. Crazy. And we're talking, some of these properties are $1 million, right? So we're not just talking low-end properties, we're talking properties across the spectrum. And that's the reason that Zillow is revising their forecast. They're looking at inventory and seeing how quickly things are moving. And that's creating panic among buyers wanting to get into a property before prices continue to rise and possibly interest rates continue to rise at the same time. Now, while I know a lot of you aren't in Orange County in Southern California where I'm located, but I want to take a minute here and talk about inventory that we had last year this time and where we are today. So last year this time we had 2,493 properties on the market. Today, we have 1,234 homes on the market. And last year, everyone was talking about how low inventory was, how there was no property to choose from. And this year, we have nearly 96% less properties on the market than we did that time last year. And at the same time, interest rates are significantly higher right now than they were this time last year, which means that buyers are trying to get in before things change anymore, which is creating this commotion, if you will, like I mentioned earlier. And currently in Orange County, where I'm located, 60% of the homes that sold in January sold above the asking price. So we're seeing homes again sell above the asking price, a lot like last year. Now, I was one that thought that this spring would be slower than last spring because I didn't think you could duplicate the craziness that we saw last year. I thought inventory would pick up, and we're still getting into that time of year when inventory does start to rise. But what I'm seeing is a lot of sellers out there that are hesitant to sell their properties because they're looking at the environment going, if I sell my property, where do I go? I mean, I've received offers on my property unsolicited in the mail. In fact, I spoke to a neighbor of mine who received a ridiculous offer on his property via phone. He previously had it listed, pulled it off the market. Someone called him and said, hey, listen, I've got a client that's willing to pay this for your property. They saw it the first time. They're willing to make an offer. And his comment to me was, if I sell it, where do I go? And that's part of the problem. A lot of sellers out there are looking at the market going, if I sell my property, I have nowhere to move. And at the same time, I'm probably going to have to pay more money for my next property in addition to paying higher interest rates to finance that property. So it's going to cost a lot more money to move than it is just to stay put. And that's probably part of the reason that the home purchase sentiment index is actually declining for sellers as well. Why the sellers don't feel like it's a great time to sell, because they're looking at the same thing that buyers are looking for. In fact, that's part of the problem with the market at the moment, is that a lot of the sellers out there are also buyers. So not only do you have first-time home buyers in the market, you have move-up buyers in the market, those that are selling their homes and buying something else. You also have those move-down buyers, those that are selling bigger homes, looking for something smaller, the boomers, if you will, those that were going to age out and sell all of their property and go live in retirement homes. Well, we've seen they're not going to do that, but they're also in the market competing for that. Then you have investors, and honestly, a lot of these people have cash. Because we had record appreciation last year, in fact, the average homeowner has $185,000 of tappable equity. There's $9.9 trillion of equity in the system at the moment. So there's a lot of money floating around between the move-up buyers, the move-down buyers, investors, hedge funds. All of these people are the ones that you're competing against. And unfortunately, that's what's driving home prices up at the moment. I just went to an open house this past weekend on a property here in Costa Mesa, and this is a story that you want to hear, right? This is one that'll really set home. I mean, this property was listed at $799. Nice neighborhood, cul-de-sac, good sized lot, but the property needed a full rehab. Drywall needed to be taken out. It had mold. It had major issues. I mean, this was a full gut. This wasn't just a small remodel. This was a big job. Probably $150,000, $200,000 remodel is what I would estimate. And homes in this neighborhood are selling between 1.1 and 1.2 on the high side. And that's for more square footage. This home was on the smaller side with regards to square foot. So my clients made an offer at $875. Solid offer, waived all the contingencies up front. They were doing financing, but they were solid. And there were 40 offers on this property. 40 offers, and they range from $600,000 upwards of over $1 million. So the $1 million buyer on that property, if they're going in doing a full rehab on that property, the $200,000, they're at 1.2. And so that's the kind of craziness that you're up against. I mean, my clients made a very strong offer, but yet didn't have a chance because there were 39 other people competing against the same property. And that's because there's a lack of available options. As inventory increases, at some point it will, that means less buyers bidding on the same homes, giving buyers an opportunity. But until that changes, you are going to continue to see homes sell quickly, homes sell above the asking price with multiple offers, cash offers coming in, and that's that's the part that's unsettling. It's unsettling as a real estate agent. It's very hard to tell a buyer what they should do in this environment because of that. But until something changes with supply, you're going to see the craziness continue in this market. Now, the one thing everyone keeps talking about is rising rates and how rates are going to cause demand to slow down. Well, I haven't seen it yet, right? Rates have been rising for the last 3 weeks or so. Like I mentioned earlier, rates are somewhere around 4% today for a 30-year fixed. And, I'm not sure how many of the 40 people were making offers on that property this past weekend, but, rates this past weekend were in the high threes, so we're not much different than we were back then. And you still had a slew of buyers looking to purchase property. So at the moment, rising rates haven't slowed the market enough to build that inventory. And the struggle is that I think sellers, as I mentioned earlier, are also going to be hesitant to sell their properties with rising rates at the same time, because those sellers are going to be looking at options out there, wondering whether or not they want to pay a higher interest rate on a property that's likely going to be more than the one they're selling, depending on what they're trying to do. And that's likely going to keep inventory levels low. Earlier, I mentioned in the video that supply and demand are both kind of moving up at the same rate. That's why inventory is not building. I think as interest rates rise, if they do to enough where demand slows, I think demand and inventory will continue to move at the same rate, but it'll just be down. I think you're going to have less sellers out there willing to sell their homes with higher interest rates unless they already have a place to go, because otherwise they're going to be in the same boat as the person that's looking to buy a property now. As a real estate agent that's looking to educate and help you through these videos, I hate making videos like this because I feel like it's so pessimistic. It's so just draining for those home buyers out there, but I feel like you got to know what you're up against. Otherwise, you're making offers without really having any clue as to what's going on in the market. And I think it's important to know. That way you can decide whether or not you want to participate. And if you do decide to participate, you have an idea of what you need to do to even be competitive. It doesn't even mean you're going to get it. As I mentioned, I've written several offers this year, and I'm striking out with regards to buyers because we just haven't been able to make the right offer, if you will. Every property's had multiple offers, and I'm working with cash buyers on some of these transactions. I'm working with some buyers that need loans, and we're going above the asking price. We're waiving certain contingencies and doing the things that I know we can do to be competitive, and we're still not making progress. So again, this video is to help guide you through that process, to give you some ideas of what is going on so you can make the right decisions. But if you're a home buyer out there, maybe think if you've actually figured out the communities that you want to be in, the areas that you want to be in. Your agent can do marketing out there to try to find properties, but as a buyer, maybe you write your own letters. You make them personal to the seller, right? Maybe not address them directly, but tell them that you're looking to buy in that neighborhood, what you like about the neighborhood, what you like about their particular property, if you will. Include a picture, include your names, include personal information to make it different, because a lot of agents are marketing these neighborhoods, trying to get listings and also trying to get property for the buyer. But if you can make a connection with that seller, they might reach out to you directly and give you an opportunity to buy, directly from them. In fact, that's what my wife and I are doing at the moment. We've been struggling trying to find the right property, and we've been in situations where we've liked property, but there's been multiple offers on it, and I just haven't wanted to get caught up in the whole multiple offer situation just because, I'm not absolutely dead set on having to buy a house right this moment. We're not in a position where we have to do anything at the moment. It's nice to have, and if the right property does pop up and it's absolutely perfect, we'll probably go for it. But all of these properties have been 80% there. And at the moment, I'm not willing to make the sacrifices that need to be made in order to do that. And therefore, we're just kind of watching to see what's happening with these properties. But we are sending letters to, addresses that we're like. We're not blanketing the entire neighborhood. We're picking out specific properties, writing to them, hand dropping them off. If we see them outside, we're trying to have that conversation with them just to let them know that, hey, listen, we're trying to upgrade to a property. There's no inventory. Just make it personal, make it emotional. Maybe that stands out and gives you an opportunity in this market. And again, these are just some tips that may help you find the right property. But if you're watching this and want some more information on the housing market backed up with some more data, do me a favor, check out this video here. I dive into it in more detail. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I appreciate the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.